One of the things I've always really wanted to do is to have like a full Tudor wardrobe. I mean, I used to do lots of dressing up and theatre as a child. I mean, looking at me, could you guess that I was a theatre kid? I was a theatre kid, and I love costumes and historical outfits, and I've always wanted to make them. It's just I never thought that I had the skill, and I definitely never had the money or the time to try and have a go and actually, make my own Tudor wardrobe. But now that we're on lockdown, I'm using this opportunity while the pandemic is still raging on and I don't have a full-time job, to take the opportunity to use this time productively and to make my very own Tudor wardrobe. My first step was going to the mirroring effect. Anyway, go to the Tudor tailor. Now, they're costumiers and historical fashion recreators that I've admired for a long time. So they're based not too far from me, and they've done sort of history of fashion programming, and I follow them on Facebook. And I thought, I had this money that I was given when I lost my job, and I thought, let's just do it. There's no better time. If I sit back forever and say now is not the right time or I don't have the right skills, I'm never going to do it. So I'm starting with a late 15th century, early 16th century gown, more commonly worn at the court of Henry VII. And I'm going to be using this as a... Thanks, Kat. I'm going to be using this as a guide to making my own Tudor wardrobe, because, I bloody studied it for years and years and years. I got a degree in it. Like, my dissertation was on presentation and cultural iconography of Elizabeth I. I might as well try... as a social historian, the best way to understand how anyone thinks is to try and do something as they did to see what your emotional reaction or physical response to something is. So the key to using this is that it has patterns in it, but, they're not like you would buy a normal clothing pattern, which is with all the pieces in there. So you have them in there and you prepare them yourself. So the key to doing it is photocopying it and scanning it, and it's 1/8 of an inch to an inch sizing up. So I'm going to have a go. So the first layer to any Tudor wardrobe is the smock or undergarment layer. On my video, how many times did Elizabeth I go to the bath? The most important layer in your clothing was your underwear, because it's what helped keep you clean. It helped keep your clothing clean. It's the layer that comes in contact with your skin. So washing this, having something washable, especially in a linen or cotton fabric, which sucks up sweat, is really important for keeping clean, keeping fresh, keeping your whole outfit looking sparkling. So after photocopying the pattern, which hopefully no one will screenshot and then you should buy the book, first obviously cutting it out. So drafting it, I was a little bit confused by, because I've never drafted a pattern from using it like that freehand, so I was a little bit nervous. But because the smock is quite square and blocky, it was actually pretty easy. So I have, this is the gore. What do I have? I have a sleeve. I have a gusset. I presume gusset is for armpit and not for downstairs lady parts. And I have the main body of my smock. So I found a linen. So linen was best used for a smock because it has a really absorbent quality that reacts really well with human sweat. And I found a dead stock website. Linen's really expensive, and I didn't want to buy brand new linen because I'm conscious that fabric has a really high eco cost, there's a high carbon cost. So I found a website called Ammo Threads, who do dead stock fabric, so stuff that would have gone to landfill otherwise. I'm going to have a go at using, and it was a lot less expensive. So this is a natural, I think, unbleached Belgian linen, so maybe more sort of a quality of what someone would have done at home, because the Tudors did use tailors. They did have professionals make their clothes. Hardly anyone made their own clothes. Not unless you were really, really, really poor, just because of the time, the skill, the effort you had to do into doing it. But the one thing that people really did focus on making at home, because it's such an intimate, personal item, were smocks and underwear. So I've gone for that. And first step is sewing the sideboards to the body pieces. Okay, so step sort of 1 and 2 complete. So I've got the 2 parts of my smock, front and back. I put the side gauze on, press the seams. So as you can see, it is in principle very big, and I've also I've also sewn the shoulder seams. So at the moment it's sort of a big rectangle with fins. It's very creased because linen creases so easily. They must have had some sort of pressing system that was much better than mine. But yeah, so our next step is to sort out this neck hole and sort of give it a nice collar-ish. That's gonna be fun. I'm not very good at drafting patterns on my own, so let's see how that goes. Showcasing Tudor Smock realness. So I finished the next stage, which was my hemline. As you can see, it goes all the way around, so that's quite nice and neat. Obviously it's still quite loose and floppy, so the next step will be joining up the side gauze to make it full, and then sleeveys. Okay, so next stage is done. As you can see, it's now looking much more dress-like. So the side gauze, so my cat's right at the bottom here. The side gauze have been sewn together to create flare and body, so it just looks slightly more obvious on this than a standard modern piece of clothing, but you can see it's giving it a little bit of shape around the chest area, so it doesn't quite look like a sack anymore. Still a little bit sack-like. But the next step is the arms. Now arms won't go on straight like this, because then you'd look like a helicopter your whole life and you'd never be able to put your arms down, so they'll have their own gusset here, and then aside from minor hemming, it'll be mostly done. So this is the finished result. Getting the sleeves on was a bit tricky. I initially did them from the bottom, which meant that I kind of had like American footballer like shoulder pads, so I had to, and I also put them in inside out because I can't do sleeves, so I had to unpick them all, sew them back properly. You can see how the gusset of the sleeve makes sort of this triangle at the bottom, so I can move my arms around, and that's it. That's a Tudor smock with a sort of neckline. It feels very weird, it's very tight across the shoulders, but I suppose because it's meant to be worn against the skin, we'll eventually just get, the fabric will get moving and you'll get used to it. But that's stage 1 of my Tudor outfit completo.